Hi. So, all right. This is going to be a long post, and it's going to be a series of posts. They're not necessarily going to be regularly published, like every week or even every month or every other week. It's really going to be posted when I'm on to the next part. So that's what I want to just get that out of the way. But I'm going to be looking back and forth to my notes because I have a lot to say. If you would rather read it, you can scroll below this video and read it all. Note that these are notes, not a transcript. So, if I say something different or extra, that might happen. And there might be things in there that I don't say exactly. And there might be things in this video that are not there. So, all right. This is my Konmari Confessional. I think that's a clever name, let me just tell you. But also, I don't know, I think it's fun. It's fun, and I'll tell you why. So, let's see. Scroll. And part of why I'm doing this is because it's a transformation. It's a journey, and those make for very good and very interesting and entertaining posts and videos. But also, I'd like to give you, my honest how I feel about it. So, it's easy to hear about things, and believe the hype, and there's a whole lot of, before and afters, and everything looks magical and sudden and like it's miraculous. And part of that is because, these people are far removed from you. And when it comes down to it, TV shows, books, what have you, stuff gets edited out on the cutting room floor. And especially with TV, because there are parts that are less interesting. There are parts that probably wouldn't get good ratings or would not be well received, but they're part of the process. And so I'm aiming to not cut any of that out because my videos are all raw and partially unscripted, and I don't ever edit any of them. So if there's weird shit that happens, there you go. That's my life. So I want to give you a nitty-gritty look and my personal experience. So one of the things about this, I'm not a hoarder, okay? And I think someone who has an issue with hoarding, this approach would probably be very difficult, because there are reasons upon reasons why people end up with so much stuff, and a lot of times it's due to trauma and specific coping mechanisms that have to do with things. And so if that is a problem that you have, or that is a problem of somebody I wouldn't recommend this to them. Say hi to my co-host, who is apparently going to help me, because that's what he does. Here, just stop. Oh my god, stop. No, stop. It was a matter of time before he showed up. Can you sit right here? I don't think you can. I'm getting mad about it. Alright, go then. Just go. No, just go. He is such a ham. So, the book that I keep referring and dancing around to and not actually naming is called The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo. Marie is Japanese. This book was translated. And when books are translated, sometimes there's a little bit of essence that is lost. And some phrases and ideas don't translate well. So, it is a translation, and there may be nuances that just didn't carry over into the book that, were you to experience working with Marie, might be a little different. And that's just my estimation of things. So, I want to start out by saying I've had this book for years. At least 3 years. And I got it because somebody went through the process and they were getting rid of books. And they said, I've read it. I know what to do. I don't need this book anymore. I'm like, okay, cool. I've been thinking about buying it. I really wanted it, but I just hadn't gotten around to it. Couldn't spare the money, or, whatever. So, which is funny because this book came to me through Marie's process, which is just, I think that's some interesting synchronicity. I don't think that was an accident. And at the point that it came to me, I was excited, as I am now. Probably a little more excited now, because I think I'll be able to go through all the way. Um, and when I started, I was like, I want to finally get organized, right? I love organization, but I have a very chaotic presence. I things end up being everywhere, not on purpose, but because I need to reach them, right? And if it's far away, put away in another room, I can't reach it. And so that tends to have places that I frequent or spend a lot of time tend to get a lot of stuff in them. So, at the point that I started this, I enlisted my partner, who was a self-proclaimed minimalist, besides the fact that they had a lot of forgotten and unused shit lying around, okay? And let's see. At the point, you start just to let you know, you start with my goodness. You start with clothes. And I want to say I got through clothes and stopped. Now, one of the claims that Marie makes in the book is that everybody who does this does not rebound. Rebound, in other words, falling off the wagon, right? They're successful, they don't go back to cluttering, and they can go forward and do really cool, amazing shit because they don't have literally all this baggage around them, holding them back, holding them down, keeping them stuck in the past. And I gotta say, a true transformation can do that. It can seem miraculous, but it is not without hard work. And, this book doesn't look like it's very big, right? It's cute, it's little. I've sat there pretty much and read all of this today, and I'm a slow reader. Isn't my bookmark adorable? And, it's easy to read about something or have somebody kind of excitedly tell you about something and think, oh, yeah, no, I could do that. But the execution is always a bit different, right? Operant conditioning makes us think that, oh, by watching I can just do this, and it's like, no. So with that said, I want to say, and this is possibly faulty recollection, but this is the best I can do. I think my previous failure, and so the thing is, if you don't go through the process and you don't do it in the right way, like as it is described and in the order and to the degree that it is described, then yes, you probably will fail. And that's because you're cutting corners, and every part of it has a purpose and a reason, and it's structured the way it is, like deliberately. And so if you're going to do this, do it right, okay? And if you find by reading that you don't want to do it, then don't do it. Nobody's making you. It's not a big deal. There are a lot of criticisms about Marie, which most of which I don't agree with, because I feel that people who are complaining or making snide remarks or being flippant don't actually understand the basis for the method and are looking at it from an outsider's view. Because remember, Marie is Japanese, and different cultures value different things. And, one of the things about Japan is there's just not a lot of space. And so you absolutely can't have tons of stuff because it would just fill up very quickly. And, here in the US, some people have a lot more space. This house is somewhere between 800 and 900 square feet. It is furnished, but aside from that, it's not overly full with one person here. With multiple people here, that starts to change. So that's the thing too. Anyway, so my execution was not very good. In fact, as I was reading this, one of the things it mentioned was, before you start, you need to visualize and define what it is you want your life to look like, and then go deeper than that. And the go deeper than that is always a thing. And so, yeah, going deeper than that. And it's important because the reality is, if you just say, oh, this would be fun to do, that's not going to carry you through. That's not going to motivate you. And if you're having trouble seeing results physically, or you're feeling daunted, or like it's a lot, having a deeper motivation can carry you through that. You know, so it's not about losing 10 pounds, right? It's about maybe feeling comfortable in your body again. You know, it's about feeling confident to wear the things that you want to wear, because you can, you know, either get them in your size, or you can get them in the cut that you want, that maybe you don't feel you can do now. Which is not to say that people can't do things regardless of age, size, gender, sexuality, race, creed, ethnicity, whatever. But a lot of people, just to be real about it, a lot of people don't feel comfortable in like how their life is. And it's your prerogative to feel how you want to feel about your life. That is your business, and that is totally reasonable. And nobody needs to criticize you about that, so they can just go somewhere with that. But the other thing that I think stopped me is my economic status. So it's really easy for people to gloss over this or not talk about it, because there's a lot of stigma around it, and there's also just the things people would like to think about. Oh my god, crazy person. Ugh. The things people would like to think, and then reality, right? So I'm poor. And the reason this is important, the reason I'm telling you this, it's not any more than it's part of it. And the reality is, being poor means things can be hard to come by, and exceedingly hard to come by. And so the thing with it is minimalism is very attractive to a lot of people, but it can be very hard to execute. But there's also this inherent classism associated with minimalism, because it implies that you can replace things later easily if you want to. And if you're poor, that's not a thing. You can't do that. And so there's a tendency to want to keep things for various reasons. And I think that's perfectly fine. But you have to be honest, you know, about it. And if you're keeping it just because you bought it, or just because you don't want to waste it, well, then that's the perfect time to, instead of trashing it, donate it. We'll talk more about that in a minute. So, pretty much, I didn't go through it all the way. And so I can't expect super great results. And I know that I didn't. And that's totally fine. And that's okay. It happens. But I'm back here doing it again with you. So here we go. So it's years later. She's written another book called Spark Joy, an illustrated masterclass on the art of organizing, which I'm very interested in looking at, to be honest. I haven't read it though, or seen it. I haven't even seen the book physically. And when I go through that, you'll be the first to know. And let me say, this is a sharing of my going through this process. This is not a review of this book. I will do a formal review after I'm done with the book, because that's how I do my reviews, after I've read the book. And in fact, I'm going to make a mental note right now that I need to put that on my calendar. Notes. Okay. Yay, it's in there now. So where were we? All right. So there's 2 books now. I don't know that she's written other ones, but these are the 2 that I know have to do with the subject. And then there's a Netflix series called Tidying Up with Marie Kondo. And I've watched that, and I'll review that later too. I'm actually going to probably rewatch it so I can take notes, because I like to take notes while I'm reading stuff, because I like to give a thorough breakdown and review versus saying, oh yeah, it's fine. Like, that's not helpful to you. So, to this point, I've reread up through the beginning. It talks about the philosophy, why, her experience, how she came to do this. And the funny thing is that, Marie fully admits that she, in her younger days, was untidy and went through a lot of different systems and failed at a lot of them. And so I think that's one of the things that people miss, is that you see the end result. You see her, poised and a consultant, an organizing consultant, and having done this for years, and having a show and 2 books, and having had time to perfect her method and everything. And it can look like, well, she's just really good at that, and I can't do that. And the reality is, she started where everybody starts, not knowing, wanting to do something, trying and failing, and she kept at it, and so this came about. And she, analyzed what was working, what was not working, and thought about it, and tried things out, and that's how you get answers. If you give up too early, you can't complain about the results you get, because you didn't put in the work. And I want you to know this is work. So I am at page 70. I've gotten all through the beginning, like I said, and an outline of the process, and through the part that talks about clothes. Now, it talks about sorting and then putting away. Sorting and then putting away. So I'm only part of the way through the whole clothes section, because there is more information about that, of how to store things. And I'm pretty sure that the expectation is that you sort everything of one thing and then you put it away, versus putting it away at the end. Because, that would just put clutter everywhere, and that'd be silly. So, I'm in, I've read up to the first phase of the first category, and here are a few notes that I will read them word for word for you. But here's a few notes that I made up to this point, that I felt these are important reminders and things that you should not forget, and things you need to keep in mind when you are going through this process. So the first thing to realize is that you'll be tidying up by category, which is pretty much the antithesis of most, if not all, organization and tidying systems. A lot of tidying systems, say, we'll start with a small amount of time. Hey, there's one that suggests 15 minutes of decluttering, and there's the give one thing away each day, and by the end of the year you've given away 365 things minimum. There's the, okay, you're going to do this room, then do this room, and do this room. And then there's just the marathon cleaning of just trying to clean. Now, a lot of these systems have to do with tidying, but also cleaning. And when we're talking about tidying, we're talking about organizing, putting things together, and maintaining order, which is not the same as cleaning your bathroom, right? You need to do that too, but it'll be so much easier to do all this cleaning, right, once you're organized, because you'll also be unburdened of a lot of clutter. So you can also think of that can be part of your motivation. If you want to get your house cleaner, having less stuff in it will definitely do that. So the second point is the system consists of 2 phases. Phase is my word. It's not the word she uses. And if you want to get picky, it's actually 3. So you gather and sort. And the sorting is optional, because if you have a lot of something, it's probably easier to break it down in small categories. So you would, for clothing, for example, tops, bottoms, socks, underwear, shoes, versus just a pile of everything, right? And you would go through each of the categories all like totally before you moved on to the next. And then you discard. That's the next phase. And then the final phase is the organization. Or as Marie puts it, which is adorable, deciding where to put things. And I think that is better said than organizing, right? Because the reality is you've taken it away from where it is and you've got to put it back. And so that's exactly what you're doing. And there, you are inherently putting it in order when you put it back versus, just throw it in there, right? And, when you've taken all this time to do all this, you might as well do it right, right? So, like I mentioned earlier, before tidying, fully visualize, sorry, the squeaky chair, the lifestyle you want to have. Include clear details, then ask why, and keep asking why 3 to 5 times for each reason. This is a common thing. So the reality is there are definitely parts of the system that are unique to Marie and how she set everything up. But there's also parts that are, common knowledge and are not like this strange thing nobody's ever done. So I think it's important to realize that this is a very practical basis and a very, not simplistic, but it's not super complicated, right? It's not just full of extraneous detail, which I want to assure you, hey, you can do this. It will take you time to do it, but you can. It's not hard to do. Not in execution as far as doing the stuff. Now, doing the stuff, like the emotional, that is another story. And we'll probably talk about that in more videos after this. And the thing about asking why is, so when you say why, well, I want to get my house clean. Okay, why? Like, of course, everybody wants their house clean. That's not a real deep reason. Well, I want to be able to find things, right? I want to not be late for work, right? Because I'm not looking for my keys or looking for my blazer or looking for that specific pair of shoes that I can't find. I want to actually have stuff that I can fit versus stuff that's just there and I haven't gotten rid of. And, sometimes it's really hard to get rid of clothes because, well, I don't want to waste. And again, we're going to cover that in a few minutes. And ultimately, you could get to, this is just an example. I want to be comfortable in my house. I want to feel at peace and I want to be able to relax. And having things organized and not having things that you don't need or want will help do that. And again, this deeper motivation is going to help carry you through some of the more difficult parts of the process. And it's important to not skip this step. And I like I said earlier, I think I didn't do a very good job the first time. And so I had a very, surface, cursory kind of reasoning, which is fine, but that's not enough, right? And also, I had to battle with 3 extra people in the house who I would have had to work around their schedules and everything like that, and it was not working. It was not conducive. So, next, for the hard to decide items. Oh, wait, stop. Rewind. Sorry, I skipped one. When in the first phase, or it's actually the second. No, it's the second phase. Let me. I'm squinting because I don't have my glasses on. So this is the second phase as I've described it. Just because I feel like gathering your stuff, that's a whole thing. Because think about it, your shit's probably everywhere. In weird places too. So she doesn't list it as a separate thing. Her is discard, put away. But like I said, in the second phase, the discard phase, you want to where are we? and this is super important, hold each item and ask, does this spark joy? So the whole spark joy thing is, that's as close as the Americanized version of saying it. And if you want to have a better explanation or a more visual one, you should watch the series, because she does this thing. And then you can also see what other people are going through too, and their transformations, which I recommend the series. I've watched it once. I'm going to watch it again. But the whole point is, it makes you happy. It's something you like. It's something that makes you smile. It's something that gives you, good, fond memories that you want to keep, right? Without like pulling you into the past and like making you regret that this thing isn't happening now, right? And the other thing she talks about is, it's itching, types of value. Now, I think I missed that the first time. Will you stop? Where is he? This jerk is getting into stuff. Sorry. I think I missed that the first time. I don't recall it. But she talks about physical value, which is, probably the value that most people think of immediately. Like, this is physical value to me, right? I like it. I bought it. I use it. It's cool. It's also got functional value. So, it's not broken. It's got all the pieces. And, there's that. And then there's informational value, which there's no information from that, but like books, papers can give you informational value. Emotional value, which is probably something that, another thing that people are very, very familiar with. And then rarity. And I think her point of mentioning that is, the more types of value that something has, the harder it's going to be to let it go. That's just, something to be aware of. And then before discarding it, you thank the item for, its purpose in your life, for helping you out, for doing this thing, or just for showing you, hey, you know what? I brought you in this house and I thought you were going to make me happy, and I realized you didn't, and thank you for letting me know that. And that is, a lot of people just make it real simple and say thank you, but at least do that, because it's part of the process. Just do it. Just don't argue with me. And so now we're on to the next one. For the hard to decide, scroll down for that starts up, items, ask, why do I have this in the first place? When did I get it? And what meaning did it have in my life then? And then reassess the role it plays in your life now. And finally, you're going to gather everything of one category from everywhere in the house, then work on discarding. And subcategories are okay if you have a lot of something. Now, I've got a few things that I want to talk about that are asides and addendums and additions I would make. And that is partially from my philosophy, personally, my background and my lifestyle and things like that, and the things that I'm trying to encourage and promote. So this stuff from here out is me and what I have to say about it. So, first of all, I want to note that if you do a poor job of visualizing, you're probably going to fail. And I did that, and that's the thing. So again, do that. Next, trash versus donate. Okay, this is one of the points that a lot of people get a little cray on the internet, because the reality is that it's a big deal, and there's a lot of implications, and it's a lot of nuance, and we already have a trash problem, and so we don't need to make it worse. Now, the special note that I'd like to make is that, again, it's also easier to get rid of something when you can replace it. And so I feel that serves part of the functional value. And I would say that qualifies as sparking joy for me, because it makes me happy to have the ease. Like, okay, so I don't have to buy bottled water, right? It makes me happy to know that I'm doing something nice for the environment by using something multiple times. And then the fact that this is recycled and can be recycled again makes me feel better versus if I just bought bottled water. And it's a lot cheaper, okay? I bought this and there's a filter in the house. And so we're good. We're good to go. And that makes me happy. And I think that some people get confused on the spark joy thing, and it's like it makes you happy. You like it. You like having it around. It's not something you look at like if you have some ugly lamp that you hate, right? Or you have that chair that is just uncomfortable or ratty. Those things, while maybe technically functional, right, don't make you happy. And so those things don't spark joy, and so those things should go and, be replaced. But when most people are talking about her work, they're talking about throwing things away, like into the trash. And Marie herself in the book, up to page 70, has said donate at least twice, maybe a third time. And I want to underline that because I feel like people miss that. And they just hear discard and organize, and they're like, oh my gosh, you're putting all this stuff in the trash. And admittedly, that's what it looks like in the series on Netflix. I can't say that is what is happening, but that is definitely what it looks like. And you don't have to do that. Like, discard it, yes. But there are other options to discarding that do not create more waste and more trash and more poison to the environment. So, due to the danger of excessive waste and, especially particular things like clothing, synthetic clothing doesn't break down. And when it does, it leaches toxins and gross stuff into the environment. And then you've got things like, water bottles and plastics and certain things, like parts of like machinery and stuff like that aren't going to break down in the sense that they're biodegradable, but they will totally, fall apart and there will be problems as a result. So what I would say is I would add another step to Marie's process. And I think that you should make up your mind about this before you start, so that you can get the information you need. You can find out where places are. You can find out what is being accepted or not, because some places will accept only certain things. And so you should donate anything that works and is not in a state of disrepair that couldn't be fixed. Now, little caveat to that. Okay, and I say specifically that couldn't be fixed. So, I'm wearing these black pants, right? They're relatively new. They're comfortable. I like them. I like black. They're soft. Well, there is a hole in them. It's along the seam. It's been ripped. Fixing a hole on a seam is super easy. You just restitch the seam.